Alright guys, welcome back. This is Val from Dreamlight. I'm going to do a quick video and answer all your questions. Last week I uploaded this question: what's your biggest 3D light issue or problem? And we got plenty of really cool questions. Or issues, right? And I'm gonna go through all of them, and I'm also gonna showcase one of them inside DAZ Studio because I think it's a really good question or issue. So we got here ray tracing, proper light balance and shadows. It's why I bought your Light on Pro and Studio Light products. Thank you so much. And physical surfaces are too shiny and lots of butterflies. Well, the first thing is kind of not an issue when using Iray, right? It already bounces and has shadows. And the other one, surfaces are too shiny and have a lot of butterflies. That comes from two things. One is the render settings. When using render settings, we usually tend to have it on and then set it to 1. That's kind of like default, right? Turn it off for maximum quality, or have it on but increase from 1 to 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever. That will counter the butterflies. However, you can also use a denoiser, right? If you have an RTX graphic card, you can use denoiser, but you can also have play with the surfaces. Now click on the surfaces, adjust the specularity, tune it down to have less of it, and also sometimes the specularity is set to a low value so that it kind of looks like metal, and if you increase that, it will look more like matte material, and that will have less reflections. But all in all, less reflections will have less issues, right? So I suck at 3D, so the problem is me. No, it's not you. It's just a sense of it's very easy to get overwhelmed, and it's a mental thing. Just keep it simple. Play with simple things, play with one light, play with one single item at a time, and just get going. Don't try everything at once, because when we do that, it's easy to get overwhelmed, right? So here we have, I have always struggled with making scene lighting look natural, while adequately, can't pronounce that word, lighting a character's face without a bunch of shadows nearby walls, especially difficult in narrow or confined spaces. Example, student in a school hallway near a bank or of lockers, and I get that. It's quite difficult to light interior renders, right? And the thing is to break things down. Do one type of light for the environment and one type of light on the character and keep them separate. That helps a lot. And you see that often in movies when people, or TV shows, people have specific marks when they should be on the set, because lighting is meant to work on those specific spots, right, on places. So renders look dark on iPhone. That's on phone after uploading to social media. That's because Facebook is saving, memory or bandwidth or whatever on their, kind of repacking images, right? So make sure they are slightly brighter when uploading them if you want them to look as good. So here we have a long comment. Thank you so much for that. You kind of mentioned that you cannot use Iray, and that's a very long topic to cover, how to use 3D Light render engine or something like that, right? It's kind of it takes a lot of time to light properly in 3D Light as opposed to Iray, so I can't really go into that in this short video. It would kind of turn out into a really long video, so I really recommend using Iray. Same thing here, real-time filament is a completely different type of render engine, and I tend to recommend using Iray because it's so much better quality wise, and I'd say we cannot do as good renders in Filament. Filament is meant for a really quick, like a demo or previs type of render. You cannot achieve as good renders in in Filament as in Iray. There are specific scenarios where you can, but it's just not the same thing, right? Indoor ambient light, big problem. It is indeed. Indoor lighting is very much different from outdoor lighting, because outdoors we have the huge sky and sunshine, right? There's two big components that usually get into every single corner of our scene. Indoors, it's a different type of scenario. So to get good ambient light indoors, I would suggest to have one window so that the skylight can enter through the windows and illuminate the room. Other than that, big area lights in the ceiling, right, facing down, and just make them invisible. That is a good thing. And also use all that type of lights that you already have in your scene. Maybe those spotlights or some kind of lamps or table lamps. Use those and enhance them with invisible lights, right? But I get it. Indoor is a totally different beast than outdoor. Then the last question, and the one that I'm going to do a quick demo of, is some professional cinematic images achieve a dramatic, high contrast look that I rarely, if ever, see in Iray renders. Specifically, I'm looking at lighting that picks out the edges and sometimes other significant faces of the human form, particularly the face, right? Yet darkens the remaining form without losing depth information. I would like to achieve this within DAZ rather than resort to post-work. And suggestions, yes, I have. And that is to really break down lighting into several components. One that gives this, all right, that gives overall light in your scene. And then having high contrast lights that are really striking and providing that effect you're after. So in order for this to work, I would ideally suggest rendering in layers, because high contrast lights, if you want them really that striking, need to be very intense. And we all know that lights, when we add lights to a scene, that often tends to be create damage as well. So let me show you what I mean. So let's play with some contrast and let's play with some overall lights and all that to achieve that kind of cinematic type of effect, right? This is Stonemason's Temple of Tranquility, and I'm just right now using the environment map, and I have the dome just added there, right? Now, if you want to play with this for a more cinematic look, we got to break down the lights into two components. One is to provide overall lighting. The easiest way to achieve overall lights is to just just do summer-ish time that has a better sky for this type of render. You want to turn off sunlight. That will provide overall lighting for your scene, all right? So now we have some kind of like a base for our scene that we can adjust, right? We can go ahead here and say, hey, we want more of that, or we want less of that, right? So that is kind of lighting that goes everywhere. And this is what is going to provide depth in your scene, so that you can kind of dictate how much you see of everything. You can also, this is also good for coloring, because you can easily color this to something like blue tinted to give it more like a darker appearance or something like that, right? Really cool. Now, how do we add that high contrast lighting? Well, we add a spotlight. Me and spotlights, right? Have you ever seen me add a spotlight to a scene? Say yes. I mean, come on. I just love spotlights. So, looking through that light's view now, we can just raise it up a bit and just see where the camera is. It's over here, right? This type of effect is best achieved as side light or backlight, or both, because you cannot project super intense lighting straight, like from the camera, behind the camera towards the scene. That would just look awkward, right? So here we can have really intense lighting. What's good about spotlights is you can also, as you can see, use the cone or spread angle to dictate exactly where it goes, right? And this is important because you can fine tune this effect to your liking and to your needs, to your specific needs. let's use just rectangle. And for, you know, size, if you use larger, you're gonna get softer light. This type of effect, though, I would suggest going for slightly less size. So I normally say 100 for soft light, but 1010 is pretty good for a, you know, harsh effect from the side or from behind. So what we want to do now is go to our camera view and just see how this looks like, right? And we're going to just increase it slightly, turn off NVIDIA Iray preview. And very important that you have dome and scene here so that you can really see both lights, right? And then just punch it enough times to get that harsh lighting. Now we can punch it some more. And also, as you decrease the spread angle, you will kind of get a more intensified light. So let's say 90 is gonna have, or let's say 120 is gonna have a pretty vague impact on your scene, as opposed to 30, which is more focused lighting, right? So if you want more of that focused lighting effect, keep it pretty much in narrow. So now what you can do with that is very easy to just move around and splotch light exactly where you want it, right? And if it's too much, you got to adjust the angle. When you get something that's totally washed out, it's because it's too much towards the camera, right? So you can counter that by having a lower light or more from behind. So in this case, more lower on the ground and more from behind. Let's say from here would have less impact on. As you can see, you start to notice patterns now on the staircase, right? So you can adjust that angle to attack your scene where it just works the best. And frankly, you go around your set and you can put it behind items like rocks here or pillars, right, to cast shadows. This is important when doing such a high impact light, is that you have some kind of shadowing going on. As you can see, that breaks off that light slightly, all right? And then it's up to you to frame it properly, right? You got to, you know, remove the stuff you don't want to see, all right? And just so you can see that harsh light without everything else being splashed. Bear in mind, this type of lighting splashes onto the scene, right? Creates a very intense splash back effect. You can of course adjust that down. It doesn't need to be that exaggerated, right? It's still intense, but remember, it splashes onto nearby objects. So a good thing, I'm not going to show that right now, but a good thing would be to render in such a fashion so that you render one layer, like render pass, if you will, right, with this light turned off. That would be one render. And then you turn this off by doing scene only, okay, and just doing that spotlight, nothing else. And then you combine them inside Photoshop, right? Just use screen blending mode. But the thing, when you have a single light, it's very easy to go into optimization and adjust the path length, which is really cool because it allows you to control the amount of bounces you get. At 2, you have pretty much no bounces. You can see that there's no damage happening now from this light onto the rest. You can also do both, right? You can render this as is right now with all the bounces happening and then do one more pass without. So now you can combine both with and without and control how much bounce you have in your scene, right? And then you can step that up if you want to get more and more, or enter -1 for infinite. Cool. And that is pretty much it, guys. That's how we can achieve that high contrast kind of Hollywood style thing, right? So remember, when you're planning lighting, break things down. Okay, break things down. How can you use one light for a specific task? and then use a different light for a different type of task? And how can you break things so that you control things, right? Because when you start to mix everything, it's very confusing, can be confusing. Of course, there's a time and place where we can add one light and have it do 2 jobs or even 3 jobs, right? But that's when we get more advanced. Right in the beginning, keep things simple and separate. Guys, that's pretty much all for today. So I want to just this to be kind of like a test video, you know, just see how you like it, how you like you know, commenting on things and getting answers and all that. So let me know in the comments below this video how you think about that, right? Guys, that's all for today. Have fun. Check out all the free links below this video and all the other links for more stuff, and I'll see you next week.